Welcome back to DUBBZI Bricks for another episode of Building the Tantive in Lego. And in this update, we're going to be working on the escape pod for the Tantive IV. In front of me here, I've got set number 75136, Droid Escape Pod. And this set, I believe, was released in 2016. Now, unfortunately, I do have a few of these in my Lego collection. I purchased them when they were on clearance, and I got them for investment purposes. However, there are a couple of parts out of this that I wish to have, such as the tile there of the Death Star plans. So I thought, why not crack one open, see what the build's like on this, and then we can hopefully get some inspiration and techniques for our actual escape pod that we'll be building for our Tantive. Now, with our escape pods, we do want it so that we can remove them from the Tantive. Whether I do it for all of the escape pods or just have it for one or two and then just have this section poking out at the bottom, I'm not sure yet, but we'll cross that bridge further down the line when we get to that part of the actual ship. But it's going to be good fun just creating the one to start with. Now, I have also got here the Star Wars Complete Vehicles book, and there are some images in here of the escape pod. So really looking forward to the challenge of building this escape pod. So first of all, let's crack this set open, build it up, and see what we think of the actual set. And here we have the escape pod, and it was great fun to make for a little set. Love the features here. This just opens up like so, and then you have the seats in here. Now, I don't think this is accurate to Universe, as I believe C-3PO will be sat like so, and then R2 opposite him as they look out of the window in the side there, which is on one of the stickers here. Just there, you can see the little Star Destroyer in there, which I think looks really cool. I haven't put the stickers on as I'll probably end up using these pieces on a different build. So it saves me stripping them off and then getting the adhesive off of the part afterwards. Love the engines on here. I think they look really good. These have got a little bit of movement on them. The smaller maneuverable thrusters, I'd imagine therefore, they don't move. Well, they do come this way and back, but yeah, they look better just in that fixed position there. So that is a design that I will be implementing onto the mock. I don't like the front here, it just doesn't look smooth enough, doesn't look blocky. Not sure whether the cockpit glass bit there is supposed to be on the mock or not, but we'll certainly have a look at the images in the book here to make sure that it is as accurate as possible. And in this section just here, this slides out, and that's got the tile of the Death Star plans on there, which I think look really good. So that tile will definitely be making it into the Tantive. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to get the curved slopes out, curved tiles out, and have a good look again at the images in here and see what we can come up with for our custom escape pod. And the prototyping has begun, and this was our first attempt just here. Got some hinge pieces in the bottom there to make the sides come out, and that's the sort of angle or shape that I'm looking for on there. However, filling these gaps in is proving very difficult. I had tried putting some plates in there, but they just get in the way of each other. So it's very difficult to do so. Also, trying to put a door on this, I think, would be very hard as well. So the next design I've come up with is this one just here, where it gradually gets wider as you go up. So on the bottom here, we're using the snot brick. Then we've got a bracket, and then we've got another snot brick at the very top here, which has got a plate on it. So that's giving it a little bit of, I think it's about half a plate increase each time. So I'm going to do 4 of these and put them all together so it creates the circle effect and just see how that comes out. And there we have the two versions side by side, and quite happy with how this one is coming along. I think it looks pretty good. Once I've got all the details on there, I don't think you're going to notice that it just steps out as opposed to being a nice smooth increase in size as it goes up. Now this is built upside down at the moment, so the studs are pointing up. When I go to build this in with all the details in there and have the seats in there, I want to have the studs pointing this way here. So the engines are at the top of the build here, and then the cockpit glass will be down the bottom if it has a cockpit glass. So I will need to reverse this round, but at the moment I just wanted to make sure that I was happy with the look of it. Now I am just going to have a little bit more of an experiment with this design, just make sure there are no other techniques I can use to help make this come out, but also keep them as nice and smooth. If I could work out a way of combining the two of these, that would be fantastic. But yeah, we'll just see what we can come up with. One thing that I am a little bit disappointed about is this top section here. It's just a fraction too small for me to be able to use these parts. If I put that on there exactly where it would need to be, you have got an overhang there of about a plate, which is a shame. But if it doesn't really matter, we'll just have to come up with a different design for that top section. And here we have the latest version of the escape pod. So I've reversed all the studs so it's all the correct way up now. So C-3PO and R2-D2 will be able to sit on that section just there. So the majority of this will be sticking out of the bottom of the Tantive. Now on this part here, which is this section here where the engines are, I was trying to get this part looking as accurate as possible to the source material, and the first version I came up with was this one here. I would have changed the plates out for white, and it took so long to get these parts here as close together as possible and get as many of them as on there as I possibly could, and I'll show you how I've done that in just a second. However, I didn't think it looked quite right, so we've now gone for this one here, which I'm much happy with, and I think that does give off the look that you've got in the source material. So that will be the one that I'll be going with, and hopefully I'll be able to attach the engines on these instead of these tiles here. So these tiles are actually keeping everything clipped together. So if I just take that apart to show you, so we take these 4 tiles off. So all of these 2x2 modified plates here are actually just resting on there. So if I just take that off, it's just a circle of them all clipped together. And then I've also used these snot bricks, which got the rounded backs on them. I got these off of the pick a brick wall the other day, and I knew they were going to come in handy. So again, we've just got the round plates just there, and that just fits perfectly around it. It was absolutely spot on size wise. Once that's all clipped back together, luckily these here, again, it just lines up spot on. So I couldn't have been luckier with the way that that's actually turned out. But yeah, we just need to work out if there's another way that I can keep this all connected together without using these tiles, as ideally I'd like to have the engines a little bit more in towards the centre of that. When this clips onto here, there are only a couple of stud points on there where it's actually connecting together, but I do think that's looking good. Now we've got to turn our attention to is the top half, and I know that's going to be a lot harder, as with this I wanted the gaps in between just to give the same effect as you see in the picture, whereas on the other end I need it to be nice and smooth. So yeah, time to get experimenting with some more techniques. And here we have the latest on the escape pod, and relatively happy with the top. I'm getting the angles or the shapes on here I like, but the gaps are quite big on there, and yeah, not liking that side of it. So I will continue to experiment with this. I would love to have been able to use this part just here. However, unfortunately, it is just a stud or two too wide to fit on the top of the escape pod here, and I don't want to extend the size of it as it is. This is already the maximum size that I want to make the escape pod. It would have been nice to have had it a little bit smaller, and I could potentially shrink the very bottom bit where my thumb is there by one stud maybe, but I don't know there's much to be gained from that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to try and work out how I'm going to do the hatch here. So this is where the minifigures would go in. It's going to be up like so, and I'm probably just going to have it so it's on a hinge piece. I think it's going to be the easiest option. When it's actually in the Tantive, you're not going to see the door open on there, but it would be nice just to have one with an open hatch just so people can see inside when it's on display. We now have a hatch or a door on the side of the escape pod, so that closes nicely. There is a little bit of a gap there, but there's no way around it and keeping it nice and tight as such. So happy enough to make that small sacrifice on the side there. Now, one thing I do need to do is put the viewport or the window on the side of the door here. So I'm just going to peel the door off and then do something else with the tiles around there. Now that I've got the basic shapes of the escape pod, how I want it to be, I can start putting more details all the way around the escape pod. And we've made some changes to the escape pod with the hatch, and it no longer opens from the side, so we've no longer got that ugly gap down there. We've actually got it opening from the top there, so it opens like so, and as you can see we've got R2 and 3PO in there, so I think that does work a little bit better. I have also shrunk this by 1 stud as well, which is a little bit better, but I am wondering whether or not it would benefit shrinking this one as well. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a think about that. I did start experimenting with different sizes, but yeah, not convinced on it. I think I need to have the top and the bottom bit all sorted first of all. Now, with the engines here, I did use the same design as was on the Lego set. However, I realised afterwards, when I looked at the image, these thrusters here should actually be in this section. So I just need to work out if there is a way that I can amend that part of it. So I'm going to carry on thinking about ways of doing this circular part here just to work out what I can do, because it could make a big difference to the whole look of this. At the moment, I feel like this escape pod is too big, so if I can lose 3 or 4 plates down here and push this all in, it could make a massive difference. Also, at the front section here, we've got these thrusters here. There should be 3 on there. However, due to me using the tiles, it's not possible to have it. So you'd have 1 here, for example, and then 2 on there. I could swap these over for plates. However, I'm trying to keep the studs to a minimum on it. I like it to be all nice and smooth. Now, earlier on, I mentioned about this part here being 1 stud too big. It's 5 studs if you were doing it that way and 5 studs that way. And I was on lego.com last night and I discovered they do actually do a 4x4 version of this. So it's slightly smaller and that would fit perfectly on there. It'd just be a fraction inside the curves there. So I'm going to order 4 next time I place an order with Lego, just to see how they look. It would mean I'd need to find a new way of attaching these thrusters here, but we should be able to do something up the top there. So I'm going to leave the escape pod now, as there are so many things I want to amend on it, but I need to work out how I'm going to go about doing so. But all in all, pretty happy with how this is coming along. I think this is a little bit too small, and this one I think is just a fraction too big. So if I can try and find a compromise between the two, then I think we'll be very happy with that. And it's haul time, and we've placed an order with lego.com after the last update. I needed to see what the engines look like with the curved tiles in here. We have a whole bag here of the 2x4 of the curved slopes, and I think I've got enough here just to do 1 engine. So that just goes to show how many we're going to be needing. In this bag here, we've got a whole selection of pieces. I've got some 1x10 of the white plates, and therefore the roads of Gotham City. I've got some red 2x4 curved slopes, and that's for the red line that's around the back of one of the engines. I thought it'd be nice to do one of those engines just to give me an idea of what it looks like. Got these support beams here, and I'm going to be using these on the bottom of the cranes in my docks area. I thought I'd just give these a go and see if it makes it look a little bit better than the design I've got at the moment. But I also want to experiment with using these for the train supports as well, because it might enable me to shrink the size of those, which would be quite nice. So yeah, that's just something I'm going to be experimenting with in the future. I've got these pieces here, which are in the metallic colour, and I'm going to be using these in my Tantive in the section where Princess Leia hands the plans to R2-D2. I've got them at the moment, but they're in the light bluish grey, and I thought the metallic would look a little bit better. And there are also some minifigure pieces in here as well for my Gotham City. So now I've got these pieces in, let's make up an engine with the curved slopes and see how that looks. And I've started to amend this engine structure just here by putting a box section around this part, which I'm going to build up. Originally, I thought you had the cylinder going all the way along the engine and then you just had 2 flat sides either side of it. However, upon closer look, there is a flat section. It's almost like the tube is built into a box. So I'm going to build the box section on, then just put the curved slopes along the top there. The curved slopes be going all the way around the end here, and that way it's going to actually save me using a whole load of these pieces just here. So I'm just going to build the box on here first of all, get that all looking how it should be, and then I can start on putting the cylinders all the way around. And there we have the support beams all in place, ready for the curved slopes to go on. We've built the box on the back here, so this part here, as you can see, no longer needs the slopes on there. So that's reduced the quantity quite considerably and saved us several €100 of slopes. Now this section here is quite fragile. It's not too bad, but you can't push too hard on it. So when transporting this to a convention, for example, I will need to make sure that I pack this very well so it doesn't break. But also when I'm putting these curved slopes on, I imagine that this is going to break quite a few times until we get it all on there together. How it needs to be. So yeah, it's going to be frustrating times, I'm sure, but we will get there. Anyway, let's put the curved slopes on there and I'll check back in once I've done so. And here we have the top of the engine, and it's already looking so much better. I had to take the beams off that I'd put along the side and on the tops and bottom, as it was the wrong design. This version here, they don't actually connect all the way around. You have it in 4 sections. You've got the top, the bottom, and then the 2 sides. And then this point here just rests up against the next one. And that happens on all the 4 corners there. And it's good having it that way, because when you're putting the tiles on, you build this as a section and then you connect it. So it's a lot stronger than if I did it the previous version, as you would have seen on the from the last little clip that I showed you. So yeah, a lot happy with that. It's really annoying that I do like this so much more than the previous version, as this is obviously the expensive version. And I'm not going to pay the €924, I think it was, to cover the entire engines. We're saving so many of these curved tiles just by having this section here, the blocky bit on the sides. That's going to save a lot. And what I will do is on the centre engines as well, I won't tile using these curved slopes on that part as well. I will condense it all down so I can use as minimal as possible. I'm only going to use these where you can actually see them. I think that'd be the best way of doing it, but I'm really pleased with how this has come along so far. But anyway, let's make the other three sides up of this. I'll put it all together. We'll tile off the top here. I think I've come across here far enough. It is looking like it's going to be very close, but yeah, we'll just double check that. And there we have the engine attached to the engine housing, and I'm much happier with this version as opposed to the flat version using the 1x4 flat tiles. This just doesn't look right to me, whereas this one looks, I'm really happy with it. So just need to calculate how many of these curved slopes I can get away with, the minimum amount I can get away with purchasing to do all 11 engines in this style, and then just see if it is something that we can afford to do. I can sort of like just get some of these curved slopes every now and again, and every time I place an order, spread the cost out, but I'm not paying €924, so we will have to try and get that down dramatically in order to go for that effect. Now, this isn't the finished look. There is going to be a lot more detail obviously added to it. I will even change some of these out to light bluish grey or light tan just to give it a more weathered effect. The red line will be changing at the back. I've just put that on there just for a little bit of colour, and also to help me visualise certain aspects of this. There's a section that goes on here which comes along, and then there's a half circle on the end and then comes back. That panel needs to be done, and then obviously we've got all the details up here. So this is just the very bare version of this so far, and I've still got to build the top engine mounts as well. But I just need to check whether or not this is actually lined up how I want it to be, or whether or not I need to move this over at all. Again, it's not a big job to do so, but a lot of thinking, a lot of calculating yet to come. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building the Tantive in Lego, and if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. A massive thank you to the members of the channel. Your continued support is really appreciated as well. It really does help with the purchasing of these expensive parts for the Tantive build. Now, over the next month, I have got a lot of work on, so I'm not sure how much work I'm going to be able to get done on the Tantive, but there will still be an update on the 1st of October. Anyway, thanks for popping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.